Hi, Keith Van Wimmer, VanTek Consulting. I'm just making up some test cables here for some old school copper circuits. Basically, this is a BNC Coax used for a DS3, or technically this cable is a T3, terrestrial carrier 3, and then it has a signal that goes on it, which is a DS3. It's kind of the old school North American digital hierarchy we're talking about. Not used too much, but still out there in some areas. So the DS3 has 28 DS1s on it, each DS1 carrying 24 voice grade channels, 64 kilobit, which gives us 672 phone lines basically on one circuit. So in order to test this, we need some test cords, and just thought I'd make some up here. So this is a BNC. Basically, we get our cable, and it's just a coil of this small coax cable, and this is what's called a Trompeter. This is a automated electric coax stripper, and inside here, if we take this apart, there are basically these little guys in here which have blades in them, and they spin around, and you can adjust the blades for the depth of cut for the 3 cuts that we need to make. And they spin it around, ring the coax, we put all of our hardware on there, and bada bing bada boom, we are done. So, and there's different size heads for this, backwards threads, different size heads. We have, you know, the one I had was like a 0.1, this is 734 coax. There's one for RG59, and there's all kinds of little doodads in the kit over here. There's a stinger gauge or tip gauge and all that wonderful fun stuff. So the rest of the tools, this is a pin crimper. So that's for doing the, let me open this up. That's for doing the stinger, the center pin, and then we have the sleeve, the crimp for the body. And then we have the actual BNC itself. So this guy here is what crimps this little guy. This little guy here is our pin that goes onto the stinger, which is sitting down inside there, right in there. Okay. Coax lopper cutters. We have our crimper that crimps this guy. And of course we have to do testing, so we have a BNC tester from Trompeter, and it actually tests the pin height to make sure that's correct. Then it tests the cable to make sure we don't have any shorts. We put a remote on there, and then when you hit the test button, it's going to give you a pass for both ground and center conductor continuity. So the first thing we're going to do is take and do the Trompeter. So this guy was running down the battery here, so this is actually a pretty easy tool. We just kind of shove that in, bottom it out, and make a lot of noise. It strips off all the doohickeys. We have the last one here. Get our little. Before we take off this one and our braiding gets all crazy on us, we want to put on our crimp. It has a smaller end, and then it has a larger end, so the smaller end goes on first. Kind of slide that down someplace where we're not going to lose that and chase around. You get one chance to put that on when you're doing the second end, because if you miss it, you've got a BNC on there already. If you're doing the first end, no big deal. If you forget it, you can just slide it on from the other end. So we take this off. That's just the braid. Kind of get your braid without messing up your foil here. So we have foil and braid here. We're going to take the braid, basically get that down out of the way. And if you mess up this foil, what'll happen is when you go to put the body on, it'll kind of bunch up and not seat really well. So once you have that, pretty simple. You just put the center pin onto that. Little hole in there. Just put that into the little hole. Crimp that. There's little dogs in there that crimp it like that. Grab this. This guy goes in and you push and make sure that he's up and seated, and then just take your collar, bring that up, and just get all your braid up there. Crimper, two sides of crimps, right? So we got to go in the smaller one, two-handed ratcheting, and there it is. So in order to test this, what we're going to do is, we've only got one end on here, but we're testing our pin height right here, and that tells me we passed, so the pin has seated. So let's real quick do the other side. Once again, before we get all carried away here, we're going to get the collar, or the crimper thingy on there. So again, we're looking for the smaller end that goes down. Gonna take this, kind of straighten that out, make sure, put that in all the way. We get our cut. Have to have a pretty reasonable fingernail to do that. Take all your braid. A couple little wires will drop off if you're cutting too deep into any of this. In other words, if none of the braid survives, or the foil completely comes off, you know, or you don't have this little area here on your stinger, we want to have just the dielectric there so that we're not grounding this out. And if any of that is not looking correct and it won't go together correct, you probably just need to adjust the blades. Okay, crimp that. Again, you know, we want to keep this foil as close to the dielectric as possible. That on there. Make sure that pin came up in there. Kind of push that up. Slide that on. Drop that in, and then I just put it all the way up to the base, and this will lie flush right down here. And it has labels here. It's 734 and 735 coax. Crimp it, and that's it. Let's test our pin height on this side. We got okay, so right now we're kind of flashing there, so sometimes the pin doesn't seat all the way. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take our pliers, and just little pliers, and just grab that and make sure that that's seated. There we go. Okay, so there's a on the pin there itself, there's a little collar here that has to kind of get up in there and snap into a little groove, and so once that's done, then you're good. We put this end on, put our remote on, push the button, we got the pass. So that is one official cord done. Anyway, I hope you found, we used to do this for all our DS3s, and turning up all of our old Sonnet nodes and things like that, so the electrical, for our electrical side, and you know, as it came out from optical and went to electrical, then we would do all this wonderful fun stuff. So anyway, I hope you found this entertaining, informative, kind of a flashback to the past. If you have any questions, feel free to give a holler. Always glad to answer. Leave your comments. Please subscribe. You know, all the usual YouTube stuff. And be safe, and we'll talk to you later.